Entitled old lady tells me I'm not allowed to stand outside my own apartment. I just found this and have been binge reading it all day and have a story from a few years ago I'd like to share with you all. So I live in a small apartment complex, only 4 units. From the outside, you wouldn't expect it to be apartments. I had my friends over one Saturday afternoon. You know, the usual a man in his 20s would do, watching the football, etc. We all go down at halftime for a cigarette, and it's raining, so we are stood in the doorway of the flats to keep out the rain. Everyone else who lives there does the same. It's a busy town center. A lot of people are walking past, doing shopping, etc., and we are all stood talking about the football, laughing and joking, having a good old time, until an old lady comes over, probably in her 70s, and is visibly annoyed by something. She tells us, rather rudely and abruptly, you need to move away from that doorway. So, obviously taken aback, I ask her why. She says, I don't need to tell you why. I'm telling you to move away from the building and stop messing around outside the open door. So I tried to explain to her why we are there, and she abruptly interrupted me, saying, you need to move on, or I will get the security. The town center has its own security guards. To move you on. You can't be stood in a doorway that isn't yours and interrupting people's business. What I did next was a stroke of genius, and had my two friends absolutely howling laughing. I closed the door and said, yeah, I hate when people interrupt people's business, while simultaneously pulling out my keys and opening the door again. I look at her dead in the eyes and say, am I still not allowed to be here? Or should you go and find a security guard still? My friends are laughing at the whole situation. The old lady says nothing, not an apology or anything, and walks away rolling on the floor laughing. A few weeks later, I heard the same lady shouting at this lovely homeless lady about the same thing, who sits outside our flats and has permission to sit on the step to get out of rain. I went down and this time shouted at her, telling her to mind her own business, and that the homeless lady has permission to be there, and that she's the only person who isn't wanted here. The police came over, as someone else reported her for shouting and swearing, and told her she needs to leave. Once again, not even apologizing for her behavior. She just walked away defeated. I came to find out from the police that she is an alcoholic who does this kind of thing all the time, getting annoyed or shouting at people like she owns the town center. Edit. The old lady in question doesn't live in or near the apartment complex I live in. It's very telling that a lot of comments pick up on how smoking outside our flat, smoking on our own property, is somehow more of a problem than someone who's clearly drunk and disorderly in public in the middle of the day. Alcohol and how it makes people act is way less of an issue, apparently, than vape smoked outside our front door. And it actually is disappointing that alcohol is so widely accepted that, in a story about a drunk lady causing trouble for no reason, somehow the sober person who's enjoying watching football with his friends and has gone outside to have a quick smoke is painted as the bad guy in the situation, not the alcoholic who's trying to get me to move from my own home. That she doesn't. Live at her near. Because in her drunk state, she assumed a couple of 25-year-olds with tattoos must be up to no good. And then the same old alcoholic drunk lady, weeks later, bullies a homeless woman, telling her she can't sit on the step of our front door, that she has permission from the residents to use when it's raining. Instead of picking up on that part, some of you assume I'm somehow the one wrong. And to that I say maybe you are drinking too much alcohol, because it's clearly so normalized in your mind that you completely overlook that part.